Hello and welcome to Todd Rolls Dice, where we're going to take a look at hopefully our first, potentially our only preview for the Grey Knights. Okay, look, I've talked about how terrible the sculpts look nowadays, and they're not terrible. I use terrible as a word to fire you guys up, because it's just really annoying that Crow in true scale is so amazing, and then everything else is just diddy. But looking at that picture, and part of it is the lighting, part of it is that the Demonettes models aren't the newest either. And okay, you've got Crow there, but the angle of the camera, the way they've taken the shot, whatever they've done to the lighting, they don't look terrible, do they? Yes, they need to be upgraded. You know me, I've been banging on about that since we looked at the combat patrol. But they still look really cool. Their armor is just cool. The force weapons are just cool. Wrist-mounted bolters are just a thing of beauty. Yeah, it's not perfect, but they're still pretty amazing, and I hope that this codex does them justice and makes them a real threat on the tabletop. But let's see what's in store. The Grey Knights are peerless demon hunters above all else, but another of their particular talents often flies under the radar: their ability to run rings around almost any other force in the galaxy. By combining an ironclad will with sanctified Aegis armor, Grey Knights can safely make short hops into the warp through localized portals called Gate of Infinity. And the upcoming Codex Grey Knights is full of ways to use the resulting mastery over movement to the fullest. So they're going to be blinking in and out of existence, which fits. I'm not well versed in the Grey Knights lore, but the little bits that I know about how they operate and what they do, that is just perfect. So the army role stays broadly the same in the new codex besides a name change, with one key difference: units removed from the battlefield aren't automatically returned in the following reinforcement step, letting them remain in strategic reserves until you need them back in action. Quite a nice change. For many units, this means they'll be returning with the Deep Strike ability, and the ability to repeatedly flicker in and out of the battlefield is the focus of the new Brotherhood Strike detachment. The detachment rule Fury of Titan is the core of this jump in, jump out strategy, giving useful rerolls of 1 to hit and wound whenever a unit steps back into real space. So basically, they deep strike in, they get rerolls of 1 to hit and wound. I mean, that's pretty strong army rule, isn't it? That's nice, right? I'm a little bit positive about that. The Grey Knights are always looking to get stuck into combat though, and arriving 9 inches from your opponent makes the resulting charge a gamble. So the Purity of Purpose enhancement is a killer way to improve your chances. So the detachment rule first, Fury of Titan. Each time a unit from your army is set up using the Deep Strike ability, until the end of the turn, each time a model in that unit makes an attack, reroll a hit roll of 1 and reroll a wound roll of 1. So it isn't just shooting or it isn't just melee, it's an attack. That's a nice army rule. And then the enhancement Purity of Purpose, Grey Knights model only. Each time the bearer's unit is set up using the Deep Strike ability, until the end of your turn you can reroll charge rolls made for the bearer's unit. It's not as good as I was hoping for. I mean, it's not bad. Rerolling a 9-inch charge isn't terrible, but wouldn't it have been nice if it was set that unit up just outside of 3 inches or 6 inches? Not reroll the charge, but something a little bit more impactful, a little bit more threatening. Maybe there's something like that in there. I doubt it, but maybe there's something like that in there. Now, there's nothing worse than having your perfidious prey fall back from combat so their friends can shoot your stranded warriors to pieces. And the Knights of Titan have been around the block too many times to let that happen. Duty Unending sends them right back into strategic reserves, possibly the first time a jump into the warp has been the safety option. And if they end up getting stuck in a fight that isn't going their way, Expeditious Exit lets them bypass normal restrictions and slip right out of combat. So the first one, Duty Unending, is a 1 CP strategic ploy. When your opponent's movement phase, just after an enemy unit within engagement range of 1 or more enemy knights units from your army falls back, target one of those Grey Knights units that is not within engagement range of 1 or more enemy units. Effect: if your unit has the Deep Strike ability, it can be placed into strategic reserves. So they fall back regardless, and then after that you can just say, right, I'm getting that unit, that's nice. And you just pop them into strategic reserves to bring them down whenever you need them. That's pretty strong for 1 CP. I know it's only 1 unit, but that's pretty Pretty nice. An Expeditious Exit is a 2 CP strategic ploy stratagem. When the end of your opponent's fight phase, target 1 Grey Knight Psyker infantry unit from your army. Effect: every model in your unit has the Deep Strike ability. Remove your unit from the battlefield and place it into strategic reserves. Designer's note: this stratagem allows you to remove a unit in addition to those removed using the Gate of Infinity rule, and it allows you to remove a unit within engagement range of 1 or more enemy units. So, end of your opponent's fight phase, if you have anything left. Grey Knight Psyker infantry is most of their infantry, isn't it? Because they're all Psykers of some capacity. So, on top of the Gate of Infinity rule, you can pull them out of combat and put them into strategic reserves. As long as they have Deep Strike, and probably most of the infantry is going to have Deep Strike if your army rule is built around Deep Strike units. 2 CP is a little pricey, but it's really nice in a pinch, isn't it? I think both of those, it feels like, because they generally hit hard in melee anyway, don't they, Grey Knights? It generally feels like they're building into the movement shenanigans, which the movement phase and being able to move out of turn and as a reaction, or just pull units out of the way into strategic reserves, is such a strong ability. So yeah, both of those I quite like. Man, if they were doing new Grey Knight models, I would be jumping on this pretty heavy, which is worrying for 11th, because they're probably going to get new models, but I'm liking this. I'm tempted to pick up the codex. Is that weird for an army I don't want to buy or run or build? I mean, who knows, I've done stranger things. One of the many drawbacks to Gate of Infinity is that it removes your units at the end of the opponent's fight phase, so they're not around to control objectives in your following command phase. Oh, that's a clever bit of balance. The Warhammer Task Force detachment does not respect this limitation, using their precedent redeploy rule to warp a unit out at the start of the movement phase instead, while the redirected strike stratagem can pick up anyone with a deep strike ability once all of their scoring is done. Before we look at that, what's the star? This one is exceedingly good with strike squads who can use their sanctifying ritual ability to retain control of an objective before warping over to another one. Okay, a bit of use with certain units. I love it when detachment rules try and promote different things to play with and a slightly different way of playing. So it sounds like we've got big movement shenanigans here, but not necessarily objective grabbing, and then we've got maybe not as much movement shenanigans here with the Warhammer Task Force, but this is all about holding, grabbing objectives and just being obnoxiously jumping around the board onto objectives. This is interesting. So, prescient redeployment. From the second battle round onwards, at the start of your movement phase, if you do not select the maximum number of Grey Knight units from your army using the Gate of Infinity ability at the end of your opponent's previous turn, you can select 1 Grey Knight unit from your army that is on the battlefield that could have been selected using the Gate of Infinity ability. Remove that unit from the battlefield and place it into strategic reserves. Designer's note: this means that your unit can retain its position on the battlefield at the end of your command phase, and then be placed into strategic reserves at the start of your movement phase to set it up again in your reinforcement step in another position. So if you just keep 1 unit back from Gate of Infinity when you normally use it at the end of your opponent's fight phase, you use it then, you still get your points, still hold your objectives, and then you move. That again sounds like quite a strong army rule if I'm understanding it right. Redirected Strike is an epic deed stratagem, 1 CP. When end of your command phase, target 1 Grey Knight Psyker unit from your army that is not within engagement range of 1 or more enemy units. Effect: if your unit has the Deep Strike ability, it can be placed into strategic reserves. Designers note this stratagem lets players utilize abilities that retain control of objective markers and react to their missions and objectives with this unit. So it sounds like you would take a strike squad. Was it strike squad? Yeah, you take a strike squad who probably have sticky objectives of some variety, and you can just have them bouncing around so that you just continuously hold back line, push them forward, react to what you need to react. I like the sound of that. We need to see more of the units and how this interplays with the other, stratagems and things. But for a CP, again, extra movement. It's pretty nice, and there's a very strong theme here. Jumping into and out of the battlefield isn't the only trick the Grey Knights have. The Sanctic Spearhead Detachment gives vehicles the classic ability to add 6 inches to their movement when advancing instead of rolling, and now also confers the Assault rule on their weapons. Oh, that's gross. Along with a package of enhancements and stratagems designed to make your armoured motor pool hit extra hard. Nemesis Dread Knights, being both vehicles and deep strike havers, love this one. So we know there's 5 detachments. There's always one that focuses on vehicles. Grey Knight's vehicles might not be that huge a selection, but they do hit hard, and they have some nice vehicles. I know that we meme on the baby carrier, and, well, I do, and the upgrade sprue is just a sad release. But if they're giving Nemesis Dread Knights a new upgrade sprue, you know their rules are going to get some real shine to make you want to own the new ones. So Dread Knights could again be in a very good position with this one. The remaining 2 detachments focus more on hitting hard than moving around, with the Hallowed Conclave built around the Grey Knight's iconic Terminators. Yeah, so there's a couple of movement shenanigans, there's a motor one, then there's a couple of just doing damage. Makes sense. A charge from the Silver Behemoths hits with enough force to buckle armor plates and smash lesser foes to paste, as evidenced by the Grind Them Underfoot stratagem. The Grind Them Underfoot is a strategic ploy stratagem for 1 CP when your charge phase, just after a Grey Knight's Terminator unit from your army ends a charge move. Target that Grey Knight's unit, should they not specify Grey Knight Terminator unit. Not that anybody will play it differently, but, you know, just because we've got to write rules like a legal document these days. Effect: select 1 enemy unit within engagement range of your unit. Then roll 1d6 for each model in your unit that is within engagement range of that enemy unit. For each 4-up, that enemy unit suffers 1 mortal wound to a maximum of 6 mortal wounds. So it's capped out at 6 mortal wounds depending on your unit size, but that's not bad, is it? I don't think that's too bad at all. Just a little bit of, it's almost like a tank shock kind of vibe with the Terminators. Yeah, I kind of like it. They do need new models though. The Banishers detachment instead champions the chapter's powerful psychic ability, enhancing their close combat attacks and providing all kinds of general buffs to infantry and characters. Their indomitable wills and hexagrammic wards are so potent that enemy psychers can suffer a hex-wrought reprisal when launching their own spells at the Grey Knights, getting almost as good as they give. So Hex-wrought Reprisal is an epic deed stratagem for 1 CP. When end of any phase, target 1 Grey Knight Psyker unit from your army that is on the battlefield and suffered 1 or more mortal wounds this phase. Effect: select 1 enemy unit which inflicted 1 or more mortal wounds on your unit this phase, then roll a number of dice equal to the number of mortal wounds your unit suffered this phase. For each 2-up, that enemy suffers 1 mortal wound to a maximum of 6 mortal wounds. These mortal wounds are psychic attacks, so they have a little bit of psychic counterattack, but also you're doing psychic attack mortal damage back. You don't need to be taking psychic damage. The way that's written, it is any source of mortal wounds that they take. That's not really how it should be played because they're bouncing back a psychic attack. But hey, that's how it's written. That's also quite a nice stratagem, I think. You'll be able to dig into the rest of their tricks when Codex Grey Knights is released, including the Sanctic Conclave Battle Force, containing the new Grandmaster in Nemesis Dread Knight in just a few weeks. So make sure you get your pre-orders in this Saturday. Let's get the negative bit out of the way. The Sanctic Conclave Battle Force is an embarrassment. Do not pre-order it unless you absolutely want everything in that box. If you only want the Dread Knight with the new upgrade sprue, it is a waste of a lot of money. But it's entirely your call. I'm not going to tell you what to do with your money, and if you want to buy it, if you want all those Grey Knight models that is in there, absolutely, it's your hobby, you enjoy it, and you do exactly what you want to do. I will never stop you. But if you're not entirely sure, just wait for the new Dread Knight to be released with the upgrade sprue. It'll be a couple of weeks, probably looking 6 to 8 weeks for that individual release, and you're going to save yourself a couple of quid. But outside of the model range, outside of the underhand corporate tactics of trying to sell this nonsense, I actually think these rules sound pretty good. I hope that we get more on them. I'd like to see more about the Dread Knight. Hopefully we'll get an article, if not tomorrow then Thursday, talking about the new weapons, the rules, and what it actually brings in a bit more detail, and how you can interplay with some of this stuff. Honestly, this sounds fun. I like the idea of a couple of movement-based detachments, a couple of heavy-hitting detachments. There's obviously a psychic one in there, and then the motor one. I think the stratagems sound pretty good. Obviously, this is all taken in isolation. Take it all as a pinch of salt, because we know what WarCom previews are like now. Post Heresy 3.0 previews, we have wizened to their tactics of not quite telling you everything. So, obviously, pinch of salt. I would work on the basis that the detachment rules and the stratagems that they're showing you and the enhancements, the images basically, are probably correct, but a lot of the text in between, just read between the lines a little bit. But I think this sounds really fun. There's sort of like a background. At some point I've always wanted to do a Grey Knight army. I love Deathwatch, I love Grey Knights, I love the whole specialising in anti-Xenos, specialising in anti-demon. It's really cool elements of different factions of 40k that I love. And down the line, if they do get a nice refresh, I'm scared how much I could see myself picking up some Grey Knights. Even if it's just a small, like a Combat Patrol style, 500 points just for smaller games, I can see it happening. I also think that they would be perfect for Kill Team, but let's not quite go there yet. But this all sounds really interesting, and honestly, I know I'm a bit of a sap for this stuff. If I read some good rules and I get a nice preview, I do get a bit positive about things. But the rules sound pretty good, and I'm tempted to pick up the codex and actually have a bit of a read. Learn some more information about the faction. We'll see. Because I'm not going to be starting Grey Knights in 10th edition, I've got 12 months to pick it up, have a read, see what's going on. Yeah, I don't know. I'm interested to see more. But more importantly, Grey Knight players, what do you think of this preview? What do you think of the detachments that have been teased and the little stratagems and bits that we've seen? Does it give you an idea of how you're going to play, the armies that you're going to build? Like I say, let me know in the comments below. As always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.